All right, English 111 students, Dr. Mark Tinsley here. We are getting close to the end of this course. Wow, can you believe it? We have come a long way, and it has not been an easy trip. But I thank you so much for your flexibility this semester. I know it's been hard, but we've done it. We're almost there, and we're one essay away and one quiz away from you being completed with English 111. And I'm excited for you. Okay, so hey, listen, hang in there. Keep plugging away. We are going to be fine. All right. Today, I just want to talk about presenting the argument. How do we give our speeches, right? We're not going to give a speech in this class, but when you do speak, when you deliver your arguments, when you present them in a public forum, I want you to know how to do that. And so we're going to briefly talk about some of the principles of presenting the argument. I'm going to watch some videos today, and we're going to try to watch some videos today and talk about them. My audio system, as good as it is not set up presently to play videos online. It's a simple setup that I can do. I just don't have the equipment to do it right now. So please apologize for the audio when we watch the videos. When we watch the videos, if you just want to copy down the links and watch the videos on your own so you can hear better audio, that's great. Or you can just kind of suffer through the audio that we're going to have here. It'll be adequate. You'll probably be able to hear it, but I don't know how good it's going to be. We're going to give it a shot, though, so stick with me. All right, so let's talk about it. Presenting argument. First, I want to listen to three speeches. One's a speech by JFK, his famous To the Moon speech. Jim Gaffigan, a comedian on weddings, and Admiral McRaven, a former Special Operations Command commander, who's talking about making your bed. And you're just like, making your bed? What are you talking about? You'll see when he talks about it. But I want to look at these, and I want you to answer the question, why are these speeches so effective? Three different forms, three different people, three different approaches, but they're all very, very effective. And the question is, why? Okay, so let's look at the first one here. To the Moon speech by John F. Kennedy. I've got to do some switching here when they come up. All right. So here we go.
We meet in an hour of change and challenge, in a decade of hope and fear, in an age of both knowledge and ignorance. The greater our knowledge increases, the greater our ignorance unfolds. No man can fully grasp how far and how fast we have come. But condense, if you will, the 50,000 years of man's recorded history in a time span of but a half a century. Stated in these terms, we know very little about the first 40 years, except at the end of them, advanced man had learned to use the skins of animals to cover them. Then about 10 years ago, under this standard, man emerged from his caves to construct other kinds of shelter. Only 5 years ago, man learned to write and use a cart with wheels. Christianity began less than 2 years ago. Printing press came this year. And then less than 2 months ago, during this whole 50-year span of human history, the steam engine provided a new source of power. Newton explored the meaning of gravity. Last month, electric lights and telephones and automobiles and airplanes became available. Only last week did we develop penicillin and television and nuclear power. This is a breathtaking pace, and such a pace cannot help but create new ills as it spells over. So it is not surprising that some would have us stay where we are a little longer, to rest, to wait. If this capsule history of our progress teaches us anything, it is that man in his quest for knowledge and progress is determined and cannot be deterred. We shall send to the moon, 240,000 miles away, a giant rocket more than 300 feet tall on an untried mission to an unknown celestial body, and and then return it safely to Earth. But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone. And therefore, as we set sail, we ask God's blessing on the most hazardous and dangerous and greatest adventure on which man has ever embarked.
Okay, so pretty cool speech by John F. Kennedy, one of his most famous ones of his presidency. And what made it effective? Think about that for a second. What made this speech effective? Well, first of all, you know, I'm just going to name a few things that I've typically heard students say over the semesters. But he's very interjected. He's very passionate about his topic. That's number one, right? He uses this metaphor or this example, this comparison of human history, right, with the lifespan of a human being. So he takes human history and he condenses it down to a much smaller period, a period of time of a lifetime, right? So that we can relate to that. And he says, you know, Christianity was only a few years ago and this was only a decade ago. And we start to realize just how much human progress has happened in such a short amount of time. And so, and then he just, his inspirational speech writers and his delivery and his volume and how he uses volume and pace of his speaking very effectively to create really rapture at the point of the climax of his speech. And so he just does a lot of things right, but his use of figurative language, his use of example, this schemata that he uses of human history condensed to a smaller period of time, 50 years, is genius. It really is. So an example of great speech writing, speech delivery. Okay, let's look at another one. Jim Gaffigan. All right, if you know anything about this comedian, this is Jim Gaffigan. All right, looks like that video is unavailable suddenly for some reason. Let's see if we can get Admiral McRaven on the line here.
I've been a Navy SEAL for 36 years, but it all began when I left UT for basic SEAL training in Coronado, California. Basic SEAL training is 6 months of long, torturous runs in the soft sand, midnight swims in the cold water off San Diego, obstacle courses, unending calisthenics, days without sleep, and always being cold, wet, and miserable. It is 6 months of being constantly harassed by professionally trained warriors who seek to find the weak of mind and body and eliminate them from ever becoming a Navy SEAL. But the training also seeks to find those students who can lead in an environment of constant stress, chaos, failure, and hardships. To me, basic SEAL training was a lifetime of challenges crammed into 6 months. So here are the 10 lessons I learned from basic SEAL training that hopefully will be of value to you as you move forward in life. Every morning in SEAL training, my instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in my barracks room, and the first thing they'd do was inspect my bed. If you did it right, the corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. It seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed.
All right. So, a rather effective speech. He takes up a mundane topic, right? Something that we all do or should do every day, right? In making our beds. And he says, listen, this is a simple task, but it's going to change your life. And he totally recaptures this mundane event in our daily lives and says, this could be the foundation of a successful life. And so it's an interesting thing, isn't it? And so it captures your attention. It's also humorous, and so we see that. And because of all, and he, of course, he's confident. Students usually say he's very well prepared. He's a Navy admiral, so he's got authority, right? All of these things we've talked about in the past. And so when he stands up or gives a speech, it's very, very effective. Okay. All right. Sorry about not having Jim Gaffigan. Of course, all we would have said with him is that he uses humor very effectively, right? And takes a kind of, again, mundane events in our lives, turns them into humor, and then we all identify with them. These stories that he talks about resonate with us, and we listen to him, right? And it's very effective. All right. So what made these presentations effective? The confidence of the speaker, the audience connection, the preparation of the speakers, the humor that was used in a couple of cases. They use simple language and sentence structures as well. So you'll notice that they use vernacular. They use very common language. There's nobody talked over anybody else's head. They make clear points. The points are clear. They're direct. We know what they're saying in the speech at any given point. We know where we are. There was significance in the context, and context context was taken into account, is what I'm trying to say, in each of these situations. Admiral McRaven knew who he was talking to. Jim Gaffigan knew who he was talking to. John F. Kennedy knew who he was talking to. And so the context was clearly under consideration when these speeches were delivered. Okay, so when we're talking about presentations, again, I wish we could have a discussion in class over this, but that's just not in the cards right now. However, when we look at the principles of a good presentation, I call some principles that I typically talk about the KNOWS, KNOWS. You got to know your purpose. Like, what's the purpose of your writing? Why are you there? What are you supposed to be doing? If you know that, you're going to you potentially have a good presentation. You got to know your subject. You got to know what you're talking about, right? You can't just go in there unprepared, and you can't go in there talking about things you don't know about. You've got to be somewhat of an expert, or at least have a lot of experience in the area, so that people know that you know your subject. You got to know the situation you're in. Where are you? What are you doing? Why are you there? Again, beyond purpose, what are you walking into when you walk into your speech? In other words, even as things as minute and mundane as it were, as do you know where you're going to be standing during the speech? Do you know what resources you're going to have during the speech? Do you have a PowerPoint presentation projector? Are you going to have lights? Are you going to be on a podium, behind a podium, or not? I mean, these are types of things. Know your situation. You got to know your audience. Who are you speaking to? You got to know the structure of your argument and your presentation. Know your PowerPoint presentation as well, right? I mean, don't be reading the PowerPoint presentation, but know where you're going from slide to slide, from point to point, so that you're organized. Again, know your visual aids, and know practice. In other words, practice, practice, practice. Best way to give a good presentation is to know it inside and out, and to practice it so that it becomes natural the day of the delivery. Some other considerations, introductions and conclusions matter, and they matter a lot, because in an introduction we capture our audience's attention, and in a conclusion we leave them with a final thought. And both of these things are critical to people remembering what you talked about, or making a connection with you. So if you don't make a connection in the beginning, then you're going to have problems throughout, right? And if you don't leave them with a good final thought, they're not going to remember it. So these are important. Again, don't forget to consider your venue, where you will give your presentation, under what conditions. Don't be surprised. You don't want to walk up there and go, okay, slide 1. Oh, we don't have a PowerPoint projector. Oh, okay. Or realize when you step up on stage, you don't have a microphone, or the microphone's not working, or whatever. Know what you're going to be doing so you're not surprised by these venue considerations. The idea of presenting from notes or not, I'm not a big proponent of not presenting from notes. Some people say don't ever present from notes, be extemporaneous, but I don't agree with that all the time. I think there are times to be extemporaneous. I think there are also times when you need to have a nice set of notes, maybe even a manuscript in front of you that you are working off of. You got to kind of know when those situations present themselves, but I'm not one of these people that says you always have to present without notes. I don't think that's good advice. I think there are times when we do present with notes, and you just kind of feel those situations out. Make sure all of your main points are clear. Don't let your listeners get lost in your presentation. Once you lose a listener, they're lost, they're gone. You're probably not going to get them back. So make sure, just like in the speeches we watched here just a few minutes ago, make sure everything's clear, concise, and clean. Okay? And of course, use proper grammar and syntax as much as you can. Humor can be your friend, but don't use it as a crutch. And if you're not good at humor, don't try to use it as all that much. Humor can also, you can shoot yourself in the foot with humor. So be careful with humor. If you're good at it, use it. If there are appropriate places to put it in, but don't overuse it. You want to be relational, though. You want to make your audience connection, because that is crucial. Stories and being transparent and authentic are ways to be relational and connect with your audience. You need to do that. Repetition is key in oral presentation. Now, we said repetition is not all that necessary in written communication, especially when we're writing short essays like we write in this class. But in speaking, you need to be repetitious. Not overly repetitious where you start to bore your audience, but repetitious to the point where they get your main points, that they're hearing certain key terms and issues over and over again so that they remember them, okay? Parallelism can be an effective tool. We've talked about parallelism in the past. And you want to build to a climax, just like JFK did in his To the Moon speech. You want to have that point, that place in the speech where people are going to want to stand up and clap, right? Build to that point. And then finally, visuals can help you. PowerPoint's great, but don't use it as a crutch, and it's not always necessary. In fact, I always tell people, be able to deliver your speech without visuals, because what if the PowerPoint projector goes down, or electricity goes out, or whatever, and you don't have it? You need to still be able to give an effective presentation. When you present, don't read your slides. Don't turn your back on your audience. And I say, are you going to read a few things off your slides? Sure. Every now and then, will you turn your back to the audience? Maybe. I'm just talking about, don't read your slides verbatim. Don't be turning your back on your audience all the time. Don't use handouts until they're absolutely necessary, because if you hand a handout too early, people are going to read that and stop listening to you. So hand it out when you need them to read it, not before. Try to avoid ums and you-knows. We all use these things, but try to avoid them as much as you can. Don't fidget, moving your hands and walking around. And you want to walk around naturally, but don't pace back and forth, because those are fidgeting things that are going to annoy your audience. And then, again, don't read your presentation entirely. You need to practice, 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 and practice. Dress appropriately. Get rest the day before your presentation. Maintain eye contact. Stand. Don't sit down during a presentation unless you have a reason to be sitting down. And then, involved discussion. Audience participation is a great thing. Get the audience involved as much as you can. When it comes to web presentations, because today, well, like right now, right? Of course, I'm not on video, but with web presentations, you need to practice with technology. Now, I violated this a little bit today because, I practiced with it, but as you could tell, I had some limitations with my technology today, and, you need to work through those. Web presentations can be an issue. If you have video, look at the camera, dress appropriately, even on when you're on camera on a video, because hey, people are still seeing you, right? You need to enunciate your words more, consider your background if you're on video, don't slouch, all of these things, right? All right, so let's look, if we can do this one more time with my bad technology, let's look at a bad presentation. And again, you can look at these, you can pause the video here and look at these presentations at these links yourself. It might be a little helpful. But if you can't, just see if you can listen up here, and let's see one more time if we can do this.
Okay, Christopher, when you're ready, let Carson know, or whoever's timing, yes? Audience.
I hate it when people throw their books on the floor. It's really annoying and loud, and I don't like it. And it's not cool. And it's reckless. It can hurt people if they get a book dropped on their foot. Has anyone had a book drop on their foot?
I can imagine what it would be like, though.
Yeah.
Especially if you're wearing sandals.
Yeah.
It's not fun. People that do it aren't cool. Has anyone dropped their books in there?
Yeah.
Not cool. It's not cool for the people that are jumping and scared easily, like me. And it's pointless when you can just put your book down easily and gently. It's also annoying during tests when you're writing. When I drop it, and you just go off the paper. And you draw this line, you have to erase it. And it's annoying. It's scary. And it's loud. And
What do you do to people when they drop their books?
I jump. I get scared.
What do you do to not do jump?
Nothing. Just let it slide. And
Not more though?
what?
Not more though?
No. And it's not cool. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher.
Okay, well, I hope you recognize that, if you could hear it well enough, as a bad speech, bad presentation. Why? Why was it bad? Well, first of all, it was a silly topic. Dropping books. I mean, was that really his topic? Nobody really wanted to hear about that. You got to pick topics, right, that people want to hear about. And you've got to present them in a serious enough fashion that people take you seriously. This guy probably walked into class that day and the teacher said, okay, our speeches are today, and he had totally forgotten about it and had to make something up on the spot. Whatever the situation, it was silly. There was no significance. The topic had no significance to the audience. His main points were not clear. It's scary, it's stupid, it's silly. I mean, what was he talking about? I have no clue. He's leaning on the podium the entire time, crossing his legs, nervously laughing, rocking back and forth on the podium. I mean, horrible presentation. He didn't know his topic well. He didn't really even have a topic, but he didn't know anything about it. Obviously had not prepared, and no evidence to support his points. I mean, this was a horrible presentation. I hope you see that and recognize it as such. Okay. All right. Listen, folks, we're going to have, I think, one more lecture next week as our final lecture before we end the class. So I'll say my goodbyes then. But for right now, continue working on your essay number 3. Those are going to be due. I'll give you the due date in the email that I'm going to send out. But do your final proposal essay. Do it as best you can. Let's finish strong, okay? Don't let your guard down. Don't slough off at this last couple weeks. Let's keep it strong and end well, okay? You all have a great week. Email me, text me, call me, whatever you need to do. If you have any questions, I'm here for you. Let's do it, all right? Y'all have a great week.